You've done it before. You know you have. You don't need me to convince you. There was something good, genuinely, specifically, undeniably good, and somewhere between the moment it arrived and the moment it could have become permanent, you found a way to make sure it didn't. Maybe it was slow. A relationship you cooled by degrees, one unanswered message at a time, until the other person finally stopped reaching. Maybe it was fast, an opportunity you talked yourself out of so efficiently, so thoroughly, that by the time you were done, you'd almost convinced yourself you never really wanted it. Maybe you still aren't sure how it happened, only that it did. Only that it always does. And somewhere underneath the confusion and the grief and the familiar nauseating recognition of a pattern you cannot seem to stop, there is a question you have never fully let yourself ask. Not why do I keep doing this, but what if the part of me that does it thinks it's keeping me safe? Here's something nobody tells you about the human brain. It was not designed for your happiness. It was not designed for your success, your fulfillment, your highest potential, or any of the other things you have been quietly promised by every self-improvement framework you have ever encountered. It was designed for one thing only: your survival. And for the overwhelming majority of human evolutionary history, survival looked nothing like the life you were trying to build. It looked like staying close to the group, staying legible to the people around you, staying small enough, quiet enough, unremarkable enough that nothing with teeth would notice you, and no one with a vote would cast you out, because being cast out was death. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally, physically. Finally, the ancestor who stood out too much, who climbed too visibly, who accumulated too conspicuously, that ancestor made themselves a target for predators, for rivals, for the quiet collective judgment of a group that had limited resources and no tolerance for anyone who threatened the balance. The ancestors who survived were the ones who learned at the level of the body to pull back, to shrink, to sabotage their own ascent before the group could do it for them. You are descended from those people, every single one of them. This is not a metaphor. The neurological architecture of a self-sabotage is real, documented, and ancient. When you get close to something that would make you more visible, more successful, more loved, more fully yourself, a system deep in the brain activates that was designed to protect you from exactly that. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, I am afraid of what this means. It doesn't say, I don't believe I deserve this. It speaks in the only language it has ever known. It makes you tired, suddenly, mysteriously tired, right when the work matters most. It makes you certain the thing you want isn't actually what you want, that the relationship isn't right, that the timing is off, that you should wait, that you should be more prepared, that something isn't quite ready. And by something, it means you. It introduces chaos at precisely the moment when stability was finally within reach, a fight that didn't need to happen, a decision that made no rational sense, a self-destruction so quiet and so clean that you can almost convince yourself it wasn't a decision at all. This is not weakness. This is a system doing exactly what it was built to do. The tragedy is not that it's broken. The tragedy is that it works perfectly in a world that no longer exists. Think about the last time You were on the edge of something, not the comfortable, manageable kind of progress that keeps you busy without threatening anything. The real kind, the kind where something was about to change in a way that couldn't be undone, where the person you'd been performing for years was about to become inadequate because something better was possible, and something better would require you to become someone you'd never been before. What happened in your body in that moment? Not in your thoughts, in your body. There was something. There is always something, a constriction, a sudden exhaustion, a restlessness that had no name, a voice, not loud, never loud, that began very quietly to enumerate the reasons this wasn't going to work. That voice is not your intuition. It is not wisdom. It is not the universe sending you a sign. It is an alarm system designed 200,000 years ago, firing in a context it was never built to understand, protecting you from a danger that does not exist. And it is very, very good at its job. The cruelest part is what it does to your story about yourself. Because the sabotage never feels like sabotage from the inside. From the inside, it feels like clarity, like finally seeing something for what it really is, like being honest with yourself after a long period of convenient self-deception. I wasn't really ready. It wasn't the right time. They weren't right for me. I didn't want it as much as I thought. These are not lies exactly. They are the brain's own translation of its own alarm, rendered into language that sounds like self-awareness, that sounds like discernment, that sounds like the kind of mature, considered judgment that adults are supposed to exercise. And so you listen to it, and the good thing ends. And a part of you, the ancient, exhausted, endlessly vigilant part, relaxes because you are still here, still in the group, still safe inside the perimeter of who you have always been. The cost of that safety is something you have been paying your entire life. I want to be careful here, because this is the part where most people want an answer, a technique, a 3-step process for rewiring the survival brain and finally letting yourself have the things you want. I don't have that for you. What I have is something smaller and I think more important. The next time you feel yourself pulling back from something good, the next time the tiredness comes, or the sudden certainty that this isn't right, or the urge to introduce just enough chaos to make the decision for you, I want you to try to name what's happening, not to stop it, not yet, just to see it, to say, even quietly, even just to yourself, there it is, the oldest part of me, doing the only thing it ever learned to do, because the system loses some of its power the moment you can see it for what it is, not an oracle, not your deepest truth, just a very old piece of code running on a very new machine, trying to protect you from a world that ended 100,000 years ago. You are not broken. You are not self-destructive by nature. You are not someone who doesn't deserve good things. You are a human animal carrying the full weight of every ancestor who survived by making themselves small, and you are trying, in a world they never could have imagined, to finally let yourself be seen. That is not a flaw. That is the bravest thing a person can attempt.